Hey everybody, a famous passage from Latter-day Saint scripture is the Book of Mormon's book of 2nd Nephi, chapter 25, verse 23, where at the end it says, "We know that it is by grace that we are saved, after all we can do." And this passage has long been interpreted by both Latter-day Saints and by others as a reference to a works-based salvation, the notion that grace only kicks in once we have exhausted all of our efforts and done all that we can do. But this is a misreading. This is not what the author intended the hearer or the reader to understand by this statement. When this passage was written, whoever its author was, the intended sense was, it is by grace that we are saved, despite all we can do. To demonstrate this, I published a paper in the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies in 2020, where I looked at occurrences of this phrase, after all we, he, she, they, can do, and I demonstrated that across all its usage it always occurred in context that demanded the understanding despite all we, she, he, they can do. Now, I looked at all the examples of this construction I could find in literature from the 18th and the early 19th centuries, and I couldn't find a single occurrence where the sense was clearly subsequent to all we can do rather than despite all we can do. And interestingly enough, this construction was frequently used precisely in discussions about grace, reflecting the idea that we get from Luke and that we also find in the Book of Mormon, that we are unprofitable servants even if we do everything that we are told to do. So the reading despite all we can do is consistent with the Book of Mormon's conceptualization of grace, and the works-based reading, the notion that grace only kicks in after we have exhausted all of our efforts, is a Latter-day Saint renegotiation of what the Book of Mormon originally meant.